For centuries, the Roman Empire forged an iron will, projecting an image of unassailable power that bordered on the divine. Its disciplined legions were regarded as an unstoppable force, a meticulously honed instrument of conquest before which all resistance was destined to crumble. This vast dominion bred a profound certainty. Rome's path was one of relentless expansion, its authority unquestionable, its military supremacy absolute. Yet, history often delivers its harshest lessons when such certainty becomes hubris. What if one fatal mistake, born of arrogance and underestimation, could shatter the myth of Roman invincibility? In the year 9 AD, it did. Welcome back to the History Atlas. Deep within the foreboding dense forests of Germania, a catastrophe of unprecedented scale was meticulously orchestrated. Here, not against a rival empire with comparable military might, but at the hands of tribes Rome arrogantly dismissed as disorganized barbarians. 3 entire legions, nearly 20,000 highly trained, battle-hardened men were not merely defeated, but utterly annihilated. This was the legacy of Publius Quinctilius Varus, whose overconfidence in Roman superiority and fatal misjudgment of the Germanic peoples led his command into a meticulously planned ambush. The Battle of the Teutoburg Forest stands as a stark, indelible lesson in the perils of overconfidence, a sobering testament to how even the greatest power can be brought to its knees when blinded by its own perceived greatness and deaf to the quiet resolve of its supposed inferiors. At the apex of its power in the dawn of the 1st century AD, the Roman Empire was a colossus spanning continents. Its very ethos was total dominion over all lands deemed civilized or strategically vital. Beyond the established frontier of the Rhine, a natural barrier yet always a permeable one, lay Germania, a vast forested territory whose wildness belied its perceived strategic value. For Rome, this land was a geopolitical necessity. Securing Germania was crucial to creating a robust buffer zone, a bulwark against the untamed tribal federations that intermittently threatened the settled wealth and established order of Gaul. For decades, legions had steadily pushed eastward, establishing military outposts, building vital roads, and initiating the imposition of sophisticated administrative structures. The overarching vision, driven by imperial decree, was to extend the imperial border decisively to the Elbe River, thereby encompassing the entire region and transforming it into the vast, new province of Germania Magna. This relentless march, however, was predicated on a profound cultural clash. Rome sought to impose its centralized authority, intricate laws, and taxation upon a people fiercely wedded to tribal independence. They saw Roman order not as a civilizing force, but as oppressive subjugation. This deep-seated belief in their own inevitable triumph, a Roman hubris born of centuries of conquest, utterly blinded them to the unique, formidable resistance quietly coalescing within the very lands they sought to absorb. Publius Quinctilius Varus, assigned the unenviable task of solidifying Roman dominion over Germania Magna, embodied the very hubris that so often preceded Roman tragedy. His background was that of an experienced administrator, not a frontline general accustomed to the brutal realities of frontier warfare. Having served as proconsul of Africa and governor of Syria, Varus was adept at integrating established, urbanized provinces into the imperial system, largely through civil governance, taxation, and the imposition of Roman law. This track record, while impressive in a bureaucratic sense, proved tragically ill-suited for the untamed lands east of the Rhine. Varus arrived in Germania in 7 AD with a mandate to transform nascent Roman influence into full provincial administration. His methods were direct, uncompromising, and deeply Roman. He established legal courts, imposed Roman tax structures, and levied tributes, treating the fiercely independent Germanic tribes as if they were already pacified subjects akin to those in Gaul or Syria. He moved with an implicit, fatal assumption of Roman superiority, that the tribes, having seen the legions, would inevitably bend to Rome's will. Varus possessed neither the nuanced understanding nor the diplomatic patience required to navigate the volatile landscape of Germanic tribal alliances and deep-seated cultural resistance. His administrative style bred not submission, but deep-seated resentment and simmering rebellion, a fact his Roman worldview seemingly prevented him from grasping. He failed utterly to discern the true mood of the Germanic population, misinterpreting their outward compliance as genuine subjugation. This fatal underestimation of the Germanic tribes, rooted in his character and Roman arrogance, unknowingly set the stage for an unprecedented catastrophe. Amidst the fragmented landscape of the Germanic tribes, a singular figure emerged, whose unique understanding of Rome would prove to be its undoing. Arminius, a chieftain of the Cherusci. Born into the Germanic aristocracy, Arminius's path diverged dramatically. He was not merely an observer of Roman power, he was an integrated participant within it. For years, Arminius served Rome as a commander of auxiliary troops, earning the coveted prize of Roman citizenship and receiving comprehensive military training. He assimilated Roman tactics, understood their language, and grasped the intricate psychology of their legions and leaders. This upbringing created a profound and dramatic irony. Rome, in its relentless pursuit of dominion and its confidence in its ability to assimilate even its fiercest adversaries, had inadvertently forged the very weapon that would shatter its northern ambitions. Arminius possessed a dual loyalty, a superficial allegiance to the empire that had granted him status and military prowess, but beneath that veneer, a profound and unyielding commitment to the autonomy and freedom of his own Germanic people. His position was unparalleled. A Roman-trained barbarian, fluent in the operational logic of the empire, yet fiercely dedicated to its expulsion from his homeland. This strategic brilliance allowed Arminius to transcend the typical disunity of the Germanic tribes. Leveraging his intimate knowledge of both worlds, he meticulously cultivated alliances, persuading disparate chieftains to set aside historical rivalries and unite under a common cause. His quiet intensity, combined with an understanding of both the Roman war machine and the forest's labyrinthine secrets, positioned him not merely as a rebel leader, but as Rome's most intelligent and dangerous nemesis, poised to exploit the predictable hubris of an unsuspecting empire. Arminius understood the psychology of his adversaries with chilling precision. He spent months cultivating the absolute trust of Publius Quinctilius Varus, not merely as an auxiliary commander, but as a valued advisor. Arminius knew Varus's administrative mindset, his insistence on order, and his arrogant belief in Roman superiority. He fed this hubris, appearing outwardly loyal, efficient, and deeply concerned with Roman interests. The stage was meticulously set. As autumn approached in 9 AD, Arminius began his subtle manipulation. Reports, carefully fabricated and amplified by his network, reached Varus of scattered, minor uprisings among distant Germanic tribes. These were presented as isolated incidents of local banditry or minor defiance, precisely the sort of administrative nuisance Varus, more accustomed to provincial governance than pitched battle, would feel compelled to address swiftly. It was a routine policing action, a confirmation of Rome's ongoing pacification efforts, not a war. The trap, however, lay in the proposed route. To quell these rebellions quickly, Arminius suggested a shortcut through the dense, unfamiliar wilderness of the Teutoburg forest, away from established Roman roads and their necessary logistical support. This was not merely a quicker path, it was a deliberate choice of terrain designed to utterly neutralize the formidable strengths of the Roman legions. Their rigid formations, heavy armor, disciplined command structure, and reliance on open battlefields would become liabilities within the trackless woods, where visibility was low and movement arduous. Varus, blinded by his own sense of security and the perceived competence of his trusted Germanic advisor, saw only the expediency. He committed 3 full legions, the XVI, XVI, and XIX, along with their auxiliary units and extensive baggage trains, to this perilous journey. Each step deeper into the forest was a tightening of the snare. Arminius, with every piece of counsel, expertly steered Rome's might into the labyrinth from which there would be no escape, sealing their fate with devastating foresight. The legions, stretched for miles, unwittingly marched into a wilderness that would become their tomb. The vast Roman column, comprising 3 legions, thousands of auxiliaries, countless camp followers, and a sprawling baggage train, stretched for many miles as it snaked deeper into the dense, unfamiliar forest. This was no open road to glory, but a labyrinth of ancient trees and tangled undergrowth, where narrow, winding paths were barely wide enough for a single file of men. What began as an orderly, if arduous, march swiftly deteriorated, The elements themselves seemed to conspire against Rome. Persistent, cold rain began to fall, turning the already treacherous ground into a slippery morass and the paths into muddy channels. A chilling fog, thick and heavy, descended through the canopy, drastically reducing visibility and amplifying the oppressive atmosphere. The accustomed rhythm of military advance gave way to trudging uncertainty. The sheer length of the column, designed for open plains, became a critical vulnerability, an impossibly long target that could not react as a cohesive unit. A growing, unspoken disquiet settled over the ranks. The forest, silent save for their own movement, felt less like a route and more like a trap. Then, without warning, the illusion of a mere difficult march was brutally shattered. From the impenetrable shadows, from thickets that had seemed empty moments before, and from unseen positions along the sodden slopes, a coordinated, deafening cacophony of war cries erupted. Arrows and spears rained down, not in a skirmish, but in an overwhelming torrent. The meticulously ordered Roman ranks, already struggling to maintain formation on the constricting, muddy ground, were instantly plunged into an unanticipated, desperate melee. The forest, which had merely embraced them with its darkness, now closed in like a fist, transforming a disciplined progression into a sudden, terrifying struggle for survival against an unseen, omnipresent foe. The dense forest, now a labyrinth of terror, became the grave of Rome's perceived invincibility. From the moment the Germanic ambush began, the three legions, stretched for miles in a desperate column, found their tactical prowess utterly nullified. In the claustrophobic confines of the Teutoburg, the very bedrock of Roman military superiority, their disciplined formations like the testudo or their adaptable manipular tactics proved utterly useless. The dense, rain-soaked trees, the narrow, muddy paths, and the constant, unceasing barrages of javelins and arrows from unseen foes ensured no cohesive line could be maintained. Each attempt to form a defensive square or advance in orderly ranks was met with withering fire from all sides, preventing any strategic response. The Germanic warriors fighting on their home ground appeared and vanished like specters. Their hit and run attacks, launched from concealed positions deep within the woods, exploited every Roman weakness. This was not a battle of pitched formations. It was a three-day ordeal of psychological and physical attrition. The constant, unseen attacks, the incessant rain, the gnawing hunger, and the mounting tally of fallen comrades chipped away at Roman resolve. Discipline, the bedrock of the legions, began to fracture. Fear, confusion, and exhaustion replaced order, slowly transforming Rome's formidable military machine into a disoriented, desperate rabble. Varus, skilled in administration, but catastrophically out of his depth in this primeval slaughter, found his command crumbling. Orders could not penetrate the din and chaos. Formations dissolved into desperate knots of men, fighting for individual survival rather than imperial victory. By the third day, with thousands already dead, supplies dwindling, and any hope of escape extinguished, the reality of utter annihilation became stark. Faced with the prospect of capture and ritual sacrifice, Publius Quinctilius Varus chose the ignominy of self-inflicted death, falling on his own sword. His suicide symbolized the complete collapse of command and the total failure of Roman strategy. The remaining legionaries, their eagles still clutched defiantly by a few, made fragmented, desperate final stands, but the outcome was no longer in doubt. The forest floor, a treacherous mire of blood and mud, bore witness to the systematic, brutal dismantling of three legions, nearly 20,000 men, a catastrophe born of arrogance and met with cunning ferocity. The news reached Rome not as a formal report, but as a chilling rumor that gradually solidified into horrifying truth. Initial disbelief quickly gave way to a profound sense of shock and dread across the empire. Emperor Augustus, who had carefully cultivated an image of unshakable imperial might, was reportedly inconsolable. The loss of Varus's three legions, the XVI, XVI, and XIX, was an unprecedented catastrophe, a wound that plunged the aging emperor into deep despair. For months, it is said, he let his hair and beard grow, lamenting, "Quinctilius Varus, give me back my legions." This visceral cry encapsulated the personal and imperial devastation wrought by the Germanic victory. The numerical loss, nearly 20,000 highly trained legionaries and auxiliaries, was immense, but the symbolic blow was arguably greater. Rome had lost not just men but its very standards, the aquilae or eagles, each representing a legion's honor and existence. Their capture or destruction by barbarians was an unimaginable humiliation, a stark repudiation of Roman supposed superiority. The mutilation of Varus's body and his head being sent by Arminius to Maroboduus, king of the Marcomanni, further underscored the completeness of the Germanic triumph and the utter disrespect for Roman authority. In Germania, however, the aftermath was a surge of validated independence. Arminius's victory had not only destroyed 3 legions, but also galvanized disparate Germanic tribes, solidifying their resistance against Roman subjugation. What had been a fragmented opposition became a formidable, unified front against the empire's eastward ambitions. The perceived invincibility of the legions, a cornerstone of Roman foreign policy, had been shattered. The devastating defeat in the Teutoburg forest compelled a stark re-evaluation of Roman imperial strategy. No longer would the ambition to push the frontier to the Elbe River dominate. The Rhine, an already established military line, became the definitive boundary of Roman power in Germania. This strategic retreat, a direct consequence of Varus's catastrophic misjudgment and Arminius's tactical brilliance, ensured the cultural and political independence of the Germanic tribes east of the river for centuries. Teutoburg became a profound cautionary tale within the empire, illustrating the perilous cost of hubris and the folly of underestimating an adversary's resolve and intimate knowledge of their own land. It demonstrated unequivocally the enduring power of indigenous resistance and decentralized warfare against even the most formidable organized military machine. The battle not only redefined Rome's northern borders, but fundamentally altered the geopolitical landscape of Europe. The unromanized lands east of the Rhine developed distinct trajectories, shaping the continent's cultural and political mosaic for millennia. This single, brutal episode serves as a timeless reminder that even the most dominant powers are vulnerable when arrogance blinds them to the true nature of their opposition. If you found this account compelling, please like this video and subscribe to our channel to explore more pivotal moments that shaped human history.